With quarterback Colton Joseph returning and Ricky Rahne in his 6th season at ODU, it's time for the Monarchs to contend in the Sun Belt. It's Locked On Sun Belt.
You are Locked On Sun Belt, your daily podcast on the Sun Belt Conference, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
All right, Dave Schultz, Locked On Sun Belt, your teams every day. Today's episode brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. We wrap up the East preview, or from the Sun Belt Media Days, as the case may be, at least 6 of the 7 teams that we got with the ODU Monarchs. We always enjoy talking with Ricky Rahne, and he brought offensive lineman Zach Barlev, and he brought defensive lineman Kris Trinidad with him. Ricky Rahne, in his 6th season with ODU, although he didn't coach in his first season, his ODU did not play during COVID, and his 5th season in the Sun Belt as ODU moved in 2021. They do have their quarterback, although they didn't bring him with them to Sun Belt Media Days, so not a lot expected with Sun Belt coaches picking them 5th. I'm going to pick them higher than that. I do think they need to contend, and this is going to be the season that they do that. So we talk about Ricky Rahne with that. We talk to them about, staying true to yourself and trying to improve, and how do you go about doing that? And we talk to the improvement, and how about the not only the improvement, but the immense size increase of one Kris Trinidad, who has put on a bunch of weight and a bunch of strength and has stayed home and has graduated from ODU. And how about Zach Barlev? You can already tell he's going to be a coach because the offensive lineman gave me some coach speak when I asked him a couple of questions. You won't be too difficult to figure out which ones he'd answered me that way. All right, he is the head coach of the Old Dominion Monarchs. He is Ricky Rahne, and he is Locked On Sun Belt. Welcome back to another edition of Locked On Sun Belt, your teams every day. We're at Sun Belt Media Days with the head coach of the Old Dominion Monarchs. He is Ricky Rahne, and you are the dean. I mean, I don't know if we're technically the dean of the Sun Belt coaches, because technically in 2020, ODU was not in the Sun Belt. Technically in 2020, you didn't play a season, although I'm sure the checks did cash. So are you in your 6th season as ODU? How do you see that? Because technically you are in your 6th season, but how are we looking at that?
I would say 6th year, 5th season, but I still think I'm
6th year, 5th season.
Yeah,
okay.
but I still think I'm the dean because at my school, right?
Right. You are the longest tenured coach at your school.
Yeah,
that
but
is
obviously you
correct.
have some other guys, Coach Jones and Coach Helton, who've been coached for a long time and that sort of thing. But it is an interesting thing. It goes quick. Changes on you quick.
It does go quick. All right, let's talk about. I don't have to ask. Usually, I always ask who's your starting quarterback, but I think we know who your starting quarterback is. Tell us about the progression of Colton Joseph.
Colton's done a great job. I think he's made some huge strides this offseason, particularly in defensive recognition and in leadership. I think those are 2 areas which he's really made some huge strides. And so excited to see what he's going to be able to do. Obviously love being able to have a guy like Quinn Hennikel to be able to push Colton each and every day. And he was named Sun Belt Player of the Week, right? For one of those. We're the only team that has 2 quarterbacks who named that. So we got a good quarterback room. I'm excited about where we're at there.
And how nice is it to have that, where we know the quarterback going in and somebody who was in the program, not necessarily transfer in, and you kind of built it the old-fashioned way. It's kind of weird to say that.
Yeah, it's funny that we say the old-fashioned way. When one's a redshirt sophomore, the other one's a redshirt freshman.
Right.
It is good, and I think it's one of those things that we have to continue to evaluate. I think we evaluated really well with our current freshman quarterback, Ryan Huff. And, I think that's one thing that, guys who can evaluate well at the quarterback position, that's going to set you apart a little bit, because you are going to be able to have guys with a little bit more experience.
We're talking with Ricky Rahne, head coach of the Old Dominion Monarchs. Dave Schultz, Locked On Sun Belt. Where are some other strengths on this football team?
I think the O-line and D-line are huge strengths for us. Really the entire front 7 on the defense. When you put the linebackers, we have 4 linebackers. We only play 3 linebackers, but we have 4 who we consider to be returning starters. And then our defensive line's a strength for us as well. Guys like Kris, Trinidad, who, spoke to. And, I think that Zach Barlev and our offensive line, their strengths, yes, because of their talent and their ability to play, but also because of the mentality they bring each and every day. And, they play with a bunch of juice. They play for each other, things like that. That mentality has kind of seeped through and been overall our culture of our team.
As a head coach, you got to love it when your strengths are the offensive and defensive line. Because, as crazy as offensives get, that's where it starts. You can't win with more offensive and defensive lines.
That's the goal each and every year.
Yeah.
It's certainly my goal. I want it. I know I play quarterback, but I want to win up front. And that's where you can most consistently win games, is winning up front.
You got to be able to run the ball. You got to stop the run. We all want to spread the ball out. We all want to throw the ball. Your quarterback, you want to throw the ball. But if you can't do those two basic things, you can't win football games, right?
No doubt. And I want to win physical, right? I want to be able. It doesn't mean I want to always win running the ball. We threw for a game. We had over 350 yards passing a couple games last year.
Right.
I want to be able to do that if that's what we have. And we have some good receivers, but in order to do that, you still have to win the line of scrimmage.
Right.
And it's hard to throw for 370 yards, 350 yards if the other team can just run it down your throat the whole time. So you have to be able to play physical to win.
Well, the game still usually comes down to, the end of the game, it's 5 minutes left. Can I run the ball for a first down, or can I stop the other team from running the ball for a first down?
Or there's a 3rd and 1, or there's first and goal from the 4, or there's something, right? Or there's, it's always going to come down to some sort of physical nature. And that's what makes this game so great is, the advances we make from an intellectual perspective, ultimately it's always going to come down to, can you win that one-on-one matchup? Because
they know what's coming. It's not a secret on 3rd and 1 what we're going to do, right? Sometimes you're going to be a trick and then you're running the ball one way and you throw it back to the tight end the other. But most of the time it's like, we're running it left. We're telling you we're running it left. Can you stop it running it left?
Well, even if you think about this, like, you can put a kid in a perfect position to make a play, but if he doesn't make the play because he's not physically ready to make that play, It doesn't matter. You throw it to a tight end in a flat and they're in cover 2 and the corner's right there to make the play, but the tight end just stiff arms and runs him over and runs for 20. Ultimately, it's still about the physical matchups. That's what makes this game the greatest game on earth.
Right. All right, who are some of the guys in spring that maybe surprised you a little bit or impressed you?
Yeah, I think our whole receiver core, we brought in a lot of new guys, particularly from the junior college ranks, and those guys really impressed me. We're going to have more size at receiver than we've ever had before. That's going to be a huge benefit for us. Guy like Isaiah Page was such a warrior for us for so long. Not the biggest guy, but a warrior. Having some bigger guys is going to be a little bit of a change for us. I think another guy that impressed me was, Skylar Grant. He ended up playing our last, 3 or 4 games for us last year at left guard, or at guard, really. He had an unbelievable spring. He was awesome. So love seeing that. I also Markai James at running back. That was a guy who I really liked and thought he had a really good spring. And he was a redshirt freshman for us at running back. I think he's going to be a guy who's going to impact. Defensively, I thought Mario Easterly did some really good things. He's played a little bit for us last year. He did some great things. Some of our junior college transfers at defensive end did some really good things. So that's going to be something we're excited about. And just like the overall growth that we had for some of the guys, like a guy like Jerome Carter and things like that. So that's what I was happy to see.
So you brought in that explosive offense from Fordham a couple years ago. Now you got Colton Joseph to run it. How have those two things molded together? Yeah. I'm not saying the right word, but you kind of know what I'm saying.
It's a little bit different than maybe it was at Fordham. We finished 15th in the country in rushing the football last year, 8th in the country in conference games and running the ball. So I think that, we were able to really get an explosive running game going and those sort of things. We got to continue to make steps and evolve in our passing game in order to give us our best chance to take that next step in the league. But I think it's done Coach Decker's done a nice job of adapting to the players we have while still keeping his core principles.
All right, let's take a time out. When we come back, we will ask Ricky Rahne directly, how has he evolved as a head coach? We always ask how the players improve. How has he evolved as a head football coach? We'll do that right after I tell you about game time. We've all been there, logging on early and waiting forever for concert tickets to go on sale, only to lose your spot for a show you've been dying to see. Live music should be about making memories, not dealing with the stress of ticket shopping. That's where Game Time comes in. Game Time makes getting concert tickets faster and easier than ever. Prices actually drop as it gets closer to showtime, and you can save up to 60% with their killer last-minute deals. Tired of endless scrolling trying to find the best deal? Game Time's zone deals pick the best seats in your section for you. Ever wonder what your view will actually look like before you buy? The app shows you panoramic seat view, so there are no surprises. With Game Time, the price you see is the price you pay. No hidden fees. And are you worried what happens if plans change? The Game Time guarantee has your back with cancellation protection and more. Take the guesswork out of buying concert and show tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. All right, Dave Schultz, Lockdown Sunbelt, your teams every day. We always ask the coaches how his players have improved. This time we ask the coach how he has improved. Ricky Rahne, heading into his 6th season at ODU, how has he improved as a head coach of the Monarchs?
How do you think you have evolved as a head coach?
I mean, I think you just grow every day. I mean, there's some things
as if the game doesn't change for you on a daily basis.
Yeah, I mean, it does. But I think that, there's times one thing I've tried to keep is just being honest with the players, being honest with myself, being honest with our coaches. I don't think that changes. But, there's some, maybe I don't overreact to some things that maybe I did before. But where I still need to keep my passion and I still need to keep, that sort of thing. That's always who I am and who I'm going to be. And if I get away from that, then it's taken away from the honesty that the players expect.
So being honest, do you ever have an answer of I don't know?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, yeah.
Well,
so sometimes that's the toughest answer because you want to have an answer and you don't have that.
It's 100% the toughest answer, but
Yeah.
I will absolutely say I don't know. And listen, it puts you in a vulnerable position to say that.
Sure.
But you have to have trust in the people that you bring in that are good people. You have to have trust in the people around you. And then you have to have trust in yourself to go be able to find that answer. And I think that, those things are important.
All right, we're talking with Ricky Rahne, Old Dominion head football coach, Dave Schultz, Lockdown Sunbelt, your teams every day. Talk to us about your offensive lineman, Zach Barlev.
Really good leader. A guy who can play guard or tackle. We play him at tackle, but he can play either one. And I think he's just a guy that we lean on. I mean, he's one of our leaders and smart kid, better athlete than probably people give him credit for, but he is very, very strong and is able to move people, wants to move people in the run game, but is a very good pass protector. I think he's got a great chance at playing at that next level.
And then you got Kris Trinidad, has only put on 80 pounds. Was he a defensive lineman? What position did he play in high school that he's put on 80 pounds
So we
in
were
college?
a 4-down front then, so he was kind of like our stand-up, rush end type guy.
Right.
But we always expected him to gain some weight, but I think we projected him to be maybe 235, 240. And he just kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And it's awesome. What a development story for us and for him. And
Sure.
He's come a long way. He's graduated now from Old Dominion.
How awesome is that?
There's a bunch of, but for him to stay, it's just, that's rare in today's college football.
Yep.
And so, he's one
Virginia kid.
Yeah, he's one of my favorite people to be around. It's awesome.
And so he's moved from the outside to the inside. And so when you, his body changed. He's
and he doesn't play as much inside. We play that 3-down front where he gets on the edge a little bit too.
Okay.
But ultimately his best thing is still his pass rush, and that's his thing. But he does play the run very well. But he plays a lot of passion. He's a good leader. People respect him. Love having him.
Okay, so usually when we're, we go from like 10 to 15, we have like a little growth spurt and we're a little gangly or something along those lines. He did the opposite. He girth. How do you, as a coach, how do you adjust to him when you're going from 195 to 230 to 250? How do you maintain? We got to make sure that he's not out of breath, that he's conditioned right. How do we maintain that
No.
and watch that. That's an issue, I would
it
think.
is. It
Yeah.
is, and you have
Right.
to make sure that he doesn't get too big too fast. But
Right.
really, the weight he was putting on was helping him not be gangly. It was giving him strength. It was giving
Sure.
him those sort of things. So that was the opposite type thing for him. He actually got more athletic the more weight he put on.
That's crazy.
And so
I need to go to
there's a
ODU.
limit,
I
though.
need to go to ODU for 2 months.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. So
Although I would lose the weight, I would go the other direction.
yeah,
hopefully.
trust me, I would too. I need to go work with Coach Snodgrass for a while, take some of this off. But he, he's definitely a guy who's gotten stronger and bigger. There's a limit. There's probably a weight that's too heavy.
Right.
And we don't want him to get to that point because we don't want him to lose his explosiveness and his quickness. But he's certainly done some great things.
All right, let's a couple more questions here for Ricky Rahne, head coach of the Old Dominion Monarchs. He's locked on Sunbelt, your teams every day. All right, we go back to where we started. 6th year, kind of feel like it's time to contend. We got the quarterback. A lot of turnover in the division, even with, one coach leaving, going to the other division, taking most of his team with him. You do have one team that's got the quarterback. J.C. French is over at Georgia Southern. I'm not sure why App State was picked 3rd, although we do take the preseason poll with a grain of salt because your coaches don't know your team. Meanwhile, someone else's team, so we take that with a grain of salt. Nonetheless, picked 5th. I would have you picked 2nd or 3rd, if somewhere in there. I think you guys are going to contend. Convince me why.
Well, I think a couple of things. I think, when you have a returning front 7, that's a big thing. When you have at least 3 starting offensive linemen back, really 4 when you consider that Martin Woodsman has played and started games. You have 2 quarterbacks that have both started games and been player of the week. And then you have both your coordinators back and your special teams coordinator back, where we've been very good on special teams for a number of years. So I think that the continuity of having all those guys back, but then also I would just tell you the guys we added are going to be players that are going to make an impact at this level. And so that's what I'm excited about.
All right. How do we get that tight end involved? Your former tight end coach, I love throwing it to the tight end.
Well, we have a guy who's coming back who was a starter for us 2 years ago in Jalen Butler, but didn't play last year.
Oh, there you go.
Obviously, we had a guy, Pat, who was a great player for us last year, and he's going to play in the NFL this year. And so, and we were able to get him the ball a bunch. And I see us having more depth there. We have a few more guys who can play there. With Carl Peterson, who's going to be able to help us out and things like that. But we've got some guys who are going to be able to do some things. I think we're going to have more depth at tight end. And Coach Weeks is a great tight end coach.
We had one of these teams talking about, can we go 5 wide tight ends? Can you do that?
Hey, listen.
Can you imagine a slot D-back trying to cover a tight end? Come on.
Hey,
mismatch. It's a touchdown.
I love tight ends, but I'm going to tell you what, we've got some receivers that we need to make sure that we get out there and get them going too.
The defense wouldn't know what hit them.
They would not.
One play.
And I've gone 13 personnel before. I have done that. So I've done that before.
There you go.
But I haven't. We had 14 in when I was an offensive coordinator before, but we never actually pulled it out.
You can try just one. Because it would be mismatched all over the field. They wouldn't know what to. And then you run a reverse out of it.
Yeah.
You would trick everybody.
Well, hey, we have handed the ball off to tight ends before. Yeah. So and that.
How does that go?
It worked out well for us, actually.
Okay.
Yeah,
We got a first down.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
All right. Gronkowski running a reverse. Once it gets going, it's going. But crossing
No, you got to give it to him a little bit more going. Just let him rock.
Kind of like the wing T.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. All right. He is Ricky Rahne. He is the head coach of the Old Dominion Monarchs. He is the dean of the Sun Belt coaches, heading into his 6th year with the school, 5th season in the Sun Belt. Really appreciate your time, Coach. Always gracious with it. Best of luck, and hopefully we'll catch up during the season. Thank you so much.
All right. Thanks for having me. Thanks, man.
Thank you, Coach.
Yeah.
All right, let's take a time out. We will talk with the players from Old Dominion. Zach Barlev, offensive lineman. First up, defensive lineman, Kris Trinidad. We'll do that right after we come back, after I thank you. All right, we did clear the 2,450 mark. I think we're almost at 2,460 subscribers. We're going to get there. It's going to be close. We're going to get close to the 2,500 mark. That's almost 1,000 more subscribers than we had at the beginning of last year's football season. So I do thank you. And I don't know if you did see the numbers. We had a huge jump in June, and there were some specific people to thank: Charles Huff, Southern Miss fans, LSU fans, Coastal Carolina fans, La Tech, and Texas State. So the numbers were huge in June. They were pretty good in July as well. Audio numbers are going to be good here again in August. And of course, well, ULM have had their issues as of late as well. But I do appreciate it. We're going to try, and I got to move quickly on this. We'll see if I can get anybody on Monday. I'm off today, so we'll see if we can go to a couple of the good friends to hop on. Last year we did the voices of the game. We'll see if we can do some beat writers, so that the Sun Belt writers who cover the league. See if we can get them to preview it this week over the next couple of weeks. So we will talk to some of the guys that I know and see if we can get them on. I'm not sure if all the team, like, does ULM have a beat writer? I don't know if they do. I don't know. So, but anyways, I do appreciate it. Also, don't forget about those audio podcasts. I know you guys have in Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Apple, actually, like almost half of the podcasts are through Apple, but a good chunk of it through Spotify. So it is appreciative. Let's wrap it up with the players from ODU right after this. All right, we had a good time. It is Dave Schultz, Lockdown Sunbelt, your teams every day. We had a good time with the guys from Old Dominion. Defensive lineman Kris Trinidad, who put on a good 80 pounds of muscle. We joked with him. Is he posing in the mirror every time he's walking by? Zach Barlev, of course, said yes. And the offensive lineman, the heady Zach Barlev, offensive lineman, who's already going to be a head coach somewhere because he's giving me coach speak, and it won't be too difficult to figure out which answer that is, because it's very obvious, and I probably pointed it out at the same time. We had a good time with them. Can they contend this year in the Sun Belt? I think they can. They are the guys from Old Dominion. Kris Trinidad, defensive lineman, offensive lineman, Zach Barlev, and they are locked on Sun Belt.
Dave Schultz, Locked On Sunbelt, your teams every day. We are here with the guys from the Old Dominion Monarchs. We got Zach Barlev and Kris Trinidad. Kris, let's start off with you. I have high expectations. I think ODU needs to contend in the East. You guys have a dynamic quarterback in Colton Joseph. I was kind of shocked you guys were picked 5th. I don't use this word too much, but it's a little disrespectful for the ODU Monarchs. What do you think?
I mean, we try not to really focus on the preseason accolades, because a lot of things that are important to us are mostly the postseason. But we plan to surprise a lot of people this year.
All right, so talking about a surprise, that kind of came with what ODU did to Georgia Southern last year. I mean, that was really explosive. What was it like seeing the growth of the offense last year under Colton?
It was amazing to see that. It really shows the type of team that we can be when we all put in the same amount of effort, the same amount of energy. And it really excites us all. And that's the type of thing we want to implement every week.
Was that an issue? It seemed that was that an issue where maybe the whole team wasn't pulling the rope all in the right direction at the same time?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of teams face adversity in different kinds of ways. And things change where it's like, guys think different things. With everything going on in college football, a lot of people aren't really focused on developing themselves or focused on like other things outside of football because they see what else is going on.
All right. So you were brought here as a leader, as ODU. How can you implement getting everybody going in the same direction?
Really by my work ethic, the way I show up every day. I try to be one of the first ones in, one of the last ones to leave. I always want to set the standard for the younger guys or new guys that are just coming in.
Sure. I mean, and that's the thing. It's new and older guys, right?
Yeah.
So you decided to stay at home. What brought you to the Old Dominion program?
Had a good talk with Coach Rahne. He sparked the fire in me. Said he had big plans for me. He said he had a plan. I just really want to live by that.
And how have you improved as a football player, and what do you think you need to work on this season?
I've improved in tremendous ways. I feel like I came in not really knowing a lot, undersized, not the strongest. And I developed.
All right. Okay. All right. You don't look at the issue that you have figured out that issue.
Yeah,
all right.
Yeah.
That issue has been solved. All right.
Yeah.
What did you weigh when you came into school?
Like 195.
And what are we weighing now?
275.
And none of that is fat. You put on 80 pounds in college?
Yes, sir.
I mean, there's the freshman 15.
Yeah.
All right.
The process.
I mean, we got to buy a whole new wardrobe, a couple new wardrobes when that's the case.
Definitely.
All right. What's that like when you see that progress year in and year out? Because obviously you didn't do that in 1 year.
Right. I mean, it's like like we got a good saying where we say you work hard and then you reap the benefits of what you work for, and it just feels good, to actually see progression in what I'm doing, and that is all going towards something.
Zach, how often do you see him posing in the mirror? I mean, if you go from 195 to 270, he's posing.
Yeah, every morning
he's posing.
Every morning before I lift, I go to the bathroom, I see him in the mirror.
Yeah, he's posing. Admittedly, if I did, I'm trying to do it the other way. I'm trying to go from 230 to 190. If I'm doing that, if I'm losing 10 pounds, I'm posing. Yeah, no doubt about that. All right, let's bring in Zach Barlev. Let's talk about ODU because it's kind of time, right?
Mm-hmm.
Sixth season. Technically, he's the longest tenured coach in one school at one time. Technically not in the Sun Belt because 2020 they weren't in the Sun Belt.
Mm-hmm.
Although 2020 there was no ODU season because of COVID. Although he's probably getting paid. So he's the longest tenured coach. It's kind of time to contend. What has he conveyed? And we're talking about Ricky Rahne. What has he conveyed to the team? Following spring and heading into fall camp.
Honestly, just going 1-0 every day. It's hard to think about. You go to the spring, you see all these preseason accolades and all that, but it's like every day, it's next practice, it's the next day, it's the next play. It's always 1-0 in anything you do.
And so give us an example of how you can prove 1-0 the next day. Like one less slice of pizza or like what? One less pepperoni or like what? How do you go 1-0 the next day?
1-0 is basically just like for us. I mean, as me as an O-lineman, it's like 1-0. I missed this block, this one play. The next play I need to be locked in, make sure I hear the play, know what I'm doing, and then make the next block.
Okay, so you make the next block, but then the defender didn't do his job. I always wonder that, how we're watching practice, right? How do we know when the offense is playing well and the defense isn't playing well? I always wonder that, especially in fall camp, right? Who's playing well and who's not? Is it good offense, bad defense? How do you guys realize that in camp? Who's playing well? Are we just a little bit better? Is the defense too young? Is the defense ahead of the offense? All those type of things.
I mean, I see this in the spring ball. This last spring, it was every day we were like iron sharpens iron. It was like one day the O-line, the offense would beat the defense. Like we'll just have 5 touchdowns, be dominant. The next day we come in, defense just beats us next day.
No. So they had to chip on their shoulder.
Yeah.
You got the best of them, and then they got the best of you.
Every other day, it's like we're just competing. Like offense versus defense is always competing.
All right, so I always ask the coaches, where do you think the strength is this season?
As a fan, I mean, if we just stay as a family, that's our biggest strength. If we stay together as a team, we don't focus on, it's one side is better than the other side. It's like I think we'll play better that way. So, I mean, you'll see that against Georgia Southern. It wasn't just one side of the ball that played well. It was both sides of the ball, and that's why we had our best game.
That's a coach speak answer. We'll try that question. We'll try that answer again. Zach, where is the strength of the football team?
The O-line.
Much better. All right.
I mean, we have 4 guys returning for our O-line. That's where the strength is.
There you go. Easy. That may be a homer pick, but at least that's a better answer. We're a family. That's the strength of the team. That's better. All right. Kris, where do you think what ODU has to overcome to contend in the East where they've slipped up in the past?
Succeeding when it comes to defeating little details. So like being on the side where it's like we are the ones that are doing the little things right. Because we had a lot of one-score games. And you could name a million plays that would say, this could have been the reason, this could have been the reason. But we eliminate those small, minor details that have us on top.
All right. He is Zach Barlev. He is Kris Trinidad. They are the guys from the ODU Monarchs. They are hopping on Locked On Sun Belt. Really appreciate your time, guys. Best of luck this season and stay healthy. All right. Good luck. Thanks for hopping on.
Thanks, guys.
All right. Full lineman, give me coach speak.
I'll spot well.
Yeah, you were.
I'll spot well.